exactly is a rainbow made? How exactly does the sun set? How exactly does a positive track rear end on a Plymouth work? It just does.
This year, I've seen several popular YouTube influencers claim some really nonsensical things about rifle scopes in the context of hunting. I've heard them mention to only use first focal plane scopes for hunting, which, you want the opposite of that. I've heard them claim that bigger objectives are better, which we also know isn't true. But the worst myth that these quasi-hunters constantly preach is that fixed parallax scopes are bad. If you don't know what parallax or parallax error is, I recommend that you stop this video right now and watch one of the thousands of videos on YouTube explaining parallax. Really, if you own a scope, you should already know what parallax is. In this video, I'll explain the pros and cons of fixed parallax scopes as they relate to the real world of hunting. A fixed parallax scope is exactly what the name implies. Parallax is set at a fixed distance, and you'll experience a varying degree of parallax error before and beyond that fixed distance. These scopes have no side focus knobs or parallax adjustment on them. It's up to the shooter to control parallax through the use of distance, eye position, magnification, and things like scope shadow. Scope manufacturers set their fixed parallax hunting scopes at varying distances depending on intended use. Most fixed parallax rimfire scopes or airgun scopes are set at about 50 yards. Most European scopes are set at 100 meters, and most American fixed parallax scopes are set at 125 to 150 yards. Fixed parallax scopes are the most popular and frequently used scopes by hunters, but they're not intended for target or long-range shooting. These are strictly hunting scopes, in my opinion. The amount of parallax error that's possible depends on the objective lens diameter, the distance to the target, what magnification you're using, and how consistent your cheek weld is. A 42 millimeter scope that's set parallax free at 100 yards can have just over 1.5 inches of error at 300 yards. A 42 millimeter scope set to be parallax free at 150 yards will have just under an inch of possible parallax error at 300 yards. And that's actually a worst case scenario. So hunting within 300 yards, your typical fixed parallax scope for deer hunting isn't going to cause misses. And to be honest, your eye won't be really in a position to cause maximum parallax error. So a typical hunter's parallax error in a realistic hunting situation will probably be closer to about a 1/2 inch at 300 yards. If you hunt within the maximum point blank range of your cartridge, you won't notice parallax error if you have a halfway decent cheek weld on the rifle. The noticeable effects of parallax get higher as objective lenses get bigger. That's why fixed parallax scopes rarely have objective lenses bigger than 42 millimeters and rarely have magnification higher than 10 power. Higher magnification is desirable for target or long range shooting, and higher magnification lets you see impacts, lets you read targets, and it lets you view the details of your target at longer distances. Even, in a regular hunting scope, higher magnification allows me to do load development without using a spotting scope. which I find kind of convenient. A bigger objective lens also becomes desirable if you have that increased magnification, because a bigger objective improves exit pupil at higher magnification. So you have better low light performance. So scopes with high magnification and larger objective lenses do have their place, but that place is beyond the optimal performance of a fixed parallax scope. So a scope with adjustable parallax is just a better tool for that. You also have to consider that the knob that adjusts your parallax error is also a focus knob. So when you turn this knob, you're bringing the image into perfect focus. And in return, you're utilizing all that expensive lens technology to its fullest. And you can't do that with a fixed parallax scope. You know, try shooting targets with an air rifle at, let's say, between 15 and 50 yards, and you'll instantly see the benefits of bringing the image into focus. So if you want the sharpest possible image at all distances, only an adjustable focus scope is going to give you that. And that's very important to a lot of people. And a lot of the time it's very important to me, depending on the circumstances. So those are the drawbacks to a fixed parallax scope. You know, if you consider yourself kind of a long distance hunter, you probably can't live without a hunting scope that doesn't have adjustable parallax on it. If your hunting rifle is also a target shooting rifle, an adjustable parallax scope is also probably going to be a better fit for you. So here's where my channel is going to deviate from what other people tell you. I personally believe that fixed parallax scopes have several advantages. You know, fixed parallax scopes are the ultimate set it and forget it scope for people that hunt within 250 yards and don't want to dial turrets or adjust parallax or do wind calculations. You know, a capped turret, fixed parallax scope like this is just the ultimate in simplicity and durability. You know, the VX5 HD without, you know, side focus or CDS turrets on it is over 3 ounces lighter than the same scope with those features on it. So fixed parallax scopes are going to be measurably lighter. Also, fixed parallax scopes are always significantly cheaper than scopes with adjustable parallax, sometimes by hundreds of dollars too. Adjustable parallax systems also add more complicated moving parts to a scope, which ultimately reduces their reliability. You know how over-tightening rings causes problems with parallax assemblies and focus lenses within the tube? Well, fixed parallax scopes just don't have that issue. If you plan to use a fixed parallax scope as a do-it-all scope, there's some tricks that you can use to actually minimize parallax error. The most obvious way to mitigate parallax error is to maintain a consistent cheek weld that always lines up the eye directly in the middle of the scope. And in order to do this, you need to have the perfect comb height and ring height so that your eye is always centered in the scope. Next is magnification. You know, technically, magnification doesn't cause parallax, but it does enhance the effects of parallax, which is just as bad. This is why most fixed parallax scopes max out at about 10 power. The effects of parallax and poor image focus can also be mitigated by turning the magnification down. You know, this also improves exit pupil clarity and field of view of the scope. At longer distances, you can actually use scope shadow to center your eye in the scope and greatly reduce parallax error. To do that, you just back your eye off until you see a ring of scope shadow around the image, and you center that. So the reality is that fixed parallax scopes are cheaper, lighter, and often more reliable than adjustable parallax scopes. They also offer a level of simplicity that just can't be ignored or downplayed. So they do have benefits to hunters. But there are times when I also appreciate having a big magnification range, and more importantly, when I spend money on a scope with top tier glass on it, I want to be able to focus my image at any distance to take advantage of that top tier glass that I paid for. And adjustable parallax scopes allow you to do that. You know, I personally use both fixed and adjustable parallax scopes. I tend to make my decision based off of the cartridge that I'm using. You know, if I'm using my 30-30, 35 Whelen or 416 Remington Magnum, you'll always see a fixed parallax scope on those rifles. You know, if I'm using a really flat shooting round like one of the 300 Magnums or my 25-06, or even an air gun, I want a scope with adjustable parallax on it. But if I build a rifle capable of shooting tiny groups, I always want adjustable parallax so I can shoot that rifle to its potential. But if you build a rifle for hunting out of a tree stand or a blind, adjustable parallax doesn't matter. So choosing a scope is often based on the cartridge you plan to shoot and the environment and situations that you plan to use it in. In the end, you need to stop listening to people who try to convince you that you need a PRS rifle and scope for hunting. You know, I see these mall ninjas on YouTube out there hunting with 6 to 30 power scopes. And, you know, I have to wonder if they can even find a deer in their scope if it was standing 60 yards in front of them. You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a fixed parallax scope for hunting, especially within the maximum point blank range of your cartridge. Understanding the pros and cons of such a scope will help you make a more informed decision about what to purchase, and could probably save you some money too. Well, I hope that you're enjoying Scope Month on Desert Dog Outdoors. Thank you for watching, and as always, good hunting.